Right, I think that's live now. So we're here with the North West Air Ambulance crew on the day off. They've come to visit us because we've been you lot have been raising money for the birthday bumper by the birthday shout-outs. And we thought we'd do a live video so we can see the questions coming in when they arrive on there. It's a bit of a lag, it'll take a few seconds. But we've got some questions already that people sent in the other day. So let's start with them. What pieces of equipment do the air ambulance wish they had on board?
Do you want to go with that one?
Yeah, I can do.
Microwave.
A kettle would be lovely.
Toilet in the kettle.
We have a lot of really good kit, don't we?
Yeah.
Well, I think probably the next thing that's going to come along to is some ECMO. So ECMO is a way of treating cardiac arrest patients, and essentially what happens is
that just a heart attack, a cardiac arrest?
So a cardiac arrest can be as a result of a heart attack, right. But the cardiac arrest is when somebody's heart stops beating and subsequently they stop breathing as well.
Right.
So ECMO, I feel would be a really good piece of kit to have,
right.
Because it has been shown to improve some survival rates, and it involves sticking big tubes into big veins and arteries, and essentially taking the burden away from the heart.
Oh, so it's kind of like
giving it a chance to recover.
So it's like a full operation.
Essentially, yeah.
It's an external heart machine, heart and lung machine, basically, and then you can repair what damage has happened to the heart.
And is there room for that in the helicopter?
Yeah, the kits are reasonably small, aren't they?
They're about the size of some of your listeners will remember your old black and white portable telly.
Yeah.
About the size of one of them.
But how much is one of them kits?
Very expensive.
About 300,000.
Jesus, it's more than the helicopter. Well, not quite. More than a cheap helicopter. I've lost the question. Sorry. We've got the auto cue here. So right, so that was an easy one. What training do you need to be a paramedic on the air ambulance?
You need. We put the paramedics through a certain amount of training. The minimum requirement is that they're a paramedic, they're registered.
So
paramedic.
you started as a paramedic?
Yeah, on the road in Lancashire. Steve was round this area.
Yeah, I was at St
Helens. And we come from all four corners of sort of NWAS, really, the North West Ambulance Service, so Cumbria, Lancs, Cheshire, Mersey, Manchester. Minimum requirement is you're a paramedic with experience. And then from there, we then, as an organisation, we put them through certain training courses. So things like surgical skills course, where you practice some of the surgical skills you're going to be using. They have to complete the first year of a master's for some of the drug administration that we do. That's a minimum requirement. And then on the other side of it then is the helicopter side of it, so the aviation side. So they do what's called a helicopter technical crew members course, which is 2 weeks, learning about aviation law, firefighting, the legalities, navigation, and all those sorts of things as well.
Oh right, because you're technically the second man in this.
And everybody in that crew is part of that.
Yeah, so if the pilot was to have an issue, you technically could take over.
Probably not. Once I'd stopped crying.
Yeah, there'd be a lot of crying, a lot of screaming.
Have a parachute and jump out. Right, how many call-outs of farm-related injuries and how many agricultural incidents do you attend? Now, you've already researched this.
We did, because we wanted to be accurate. We came prepared. So we did.
There's questions actually still coming through on there, so we might have to check them in a minute.
No problem. We did some stats of some of the information we keep, and on average we do 33 farm-related incidents a year.
All right.
So it's about not quite one a week, but not far off.
Yeah.
And then there's other stuff as well. So the rural community is the thing about the North West Air Ambulance is it's a device to shrink the North West. And basically the rural communities are probably are invariably affected in the sense that they're the furthest away from the major trauma centres. So if you have a big trauma or a heart attack, then you're probably the furthest point away from those major trauma centres. And what the air ambulance does is shrink that distance, really. So you've got things like equestrian stuff as well. That's about another 37 jobs a year, just purely equestrian jobs.
They're dangerous horses, aren't they?
Yeah.
And what about motorbikes to horses then?
Oh, massive.
Just grab this cat out of the way.
Yeah, he's okay.
Being a nuisance.
Motorbikes, I don't know the figures off the top of my head, but I'd say at least treble.
Treble horses?
Yeah.
Really?
Easy.
Yeah.
Easy. It's about frequency of use, isn't it? You know, the number of people who are horse riders compared to the number of people who are motorbike riders, etc. But then you've got like the rural community. You've got rural roads, which are notoriously like the B roads. They're usually unlit, fast, high speeds, all the rest of it. So that rural community sort of really I wouldn't say relies, but the air ambulance is quite a valuable asset to have for them.
Yeah, because I mean, we're lucky. We're not that far from Wiston Hospital.
Yeah.
But there's so many places that it can be an hour from a hospital.
Oh, you were saying you're in Cumbria last week, weren't you?
Yeah,
so,
yeah. Right, so we've done that one. What did each air ambulance crew member want to do when they were at school?
This is going out live, isn't it? Stay at home. I didn't really go, that's why I'm a paramedic. I was originally, when I left school, I had a bit of a weird career, to be honest, before I became a paramedic. So when I left school, I wanted to join the army. I was going to join the army and work with helicopters, funnily enough.
Oh, right.
And then I got sidetracked and I ended up selling baked beans for a living.
For Wigan? Famous Wigan company?
No, actually, I used to work for a wholesale firm, a cash and carry firm.
Oh,
and I literally spent 20 years there and suddenly had a bit of a career midlife crisis and thought I'm going to go off and join the ambulance service. So I became retrained at 34 as a paramedic.
Oh, right.
Yeah. I didn't really have a massive grand plan at school, really. I liked academic things, so I wanted to do like medical research
right.
and stuff like that. And then after I finished, and I went to uni first time round, and then I decided I wanted to go back to uni. And then there was a paramedic course that came up, and I'd always enjoyed watching Josh on Casualty growing up as a kid. He was a good paramedic on Casualty. Yeah,
Was he? Yeah, he's a real paramedic.
And then I thought, well, I'll give that a go. And
it's interesting though, isn't it?
10 plus years later, I'm here.
So you kind of both have ended up now doing what you sort of
to do.
What you wanted to do, even though you went different ways first. That's quite.
I think there's a lot of pressure on when we were talking about this question on the way here, and we said like, when you leave school, you don't really know what you want to do.
Did you watch Airwolf?
100%.
I did watch it.
What about the 18?
I've seen it. Yeah.
More Airwolf. I think I look a bit like Jan Michael Vincent, but I probably look a bit more like Ernest Borgnine now. And we still hum the theme tune when we take off.
What is the response time from an alert to being airborne?
Roughly 4 to 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Between 4 and 5 minutes is the average.
You want to get some Velcro shoes, mate.
It's the safety stuff because you're responding. There's a set checklist you've got to go through that are like mandatory. That you can't do anything other than that, really.
You've got to make sure that the aircraft's fit.
Absolutely. There's no point creating casualties on the way to other casualties.
How many call-outs do you have on average a week?
So.
Yeah, quite a lot actually. Probably about 60 a week.
Yeah.
Between all 3 of our aircraft platforms.
8 a day, isn't
it?
Yeah.
3 per aircraft.
3 per aircraft today. It averages out as.
Oh right. Yeah, we should have said that. So you've got 3 aircraft. You've got 2 based at Barton in Manchester and 1 based at Blackpool.
Yes.
Yeah.
But you all overlap with the different other regions.
Yeah, but predominantly we're quite unique because we cover like the footprint of the North West Ambulance Service. So the North West Ambulance Service is, like I said, Cumbria, Lancs, Cheshire, Mersey and Manchester, and we tend to cover that footprint. But we will do cross-border stuff. Yorkshire will come and help us. We'll go and help Yorkshire, Wales, West Midlands. Every air ambulance is interoperable with each other.
Yeah. Right, what else have we got on here? Are the air ambulances certified to fly at night?
Ooh.
Yes, we can fly at night. There's a couple of caveats to that, as in at night we can fly from lit helicopter pad to lit helicopter pad.
Right.
So we can go like into transfers between hospitals with helipads with lights. But we can't land in a field per se at night because we won't be able to see, and it's taken into account trees, wires.
What about like a lit motorway? Would that be?
So you've got to be careful for wires. So generally no. So once we go past certified night time, we're going to find that really difficult, even if they are lit.
Yeah. So if someone is in a
and
critical
regulations.
condition in a hospital that need to move to another hospital,
Yeah.
you'd do that out
We
of
can-
hours,
yeah,
really.
we can do
Because,
Once it's dark, yeah.
yeah.
But now at night we do have our car.
Yeah, well that's it. So the cars are here, so you'll see that in the video later. You get 3. So.
4 cars in total and
Yeah.
1 car that operates at night. At the moment, Friday, Saturday, but we can extend that over the next year.
You know, you've like got it like it's like yellow and blue, and
Yeah.
it's got stick it up. Would it not look good if you like wrapped it to look like a helicopter?
I'm not sure people would take it seriously.
You could put something on the roof
Like
and
wacky races. But funnily enough, we've got a soapbox race coming up where we're making a
where's that
soapbox. Northwich Crazy Races on the 16th of July.
We did one with young farmers, and we got like really competitive, and one of the things was you had to carry a bucket of water down the hill without spilling it on
On the cars.
So we knew how big the bucket was, so we made a device to hold the bucket that it had its own lid. Yeah, it's good. Bigger the wheels, the better, because it was on grass. Look what we did. All right, what's the furthest from the base? What's the furthest from base and patch, and how long will it take to get there from the phone ringing? So it's a bit like the other one. So I suppose it's how far would the flight be? If it's 4 or 5 minutes to get airborne, what's the flight time?
Basically, you were roughly within 15 to 20 minutes of anywhere within the northwest from those, because the bases are in 2 separate locations. It changes slightly. So to give you a hard and fast answer, about 20 to 25 minutes maximum is the furthest point. So that's our southerly patch is Whitchurch, over to the Pennines, obviously over to the Birkenhead estuary and the far side of the Wirral, and then up as far north as Cumbria and Lancs extend really.
And now, what's it do, about 100 and something miles an hour?
140 miles an hour, so it's about 2 miles a minute.
Wow.
2 miles a minute. So wherever the distance is in miles, we half it, and you know that's your flight time. So you can give when you're on the ambulance radio, you'll say we'll be overhead in 7 minutes, 8 minutes, 9 minutes. So it's whatever the mileage is, half it.
So when you go into something, say like it is a motorway accident, whatever, will the ground ambulance crew, or will it be the police that will clear you somewhere to land, or do you just find wherever?
We'll find somewhere.
Yeah,
because it's about time. Basically, you could spend a lot of time. Sometimes they'll close both sides of the motorway. They have to close both sides because we land on the motorway. The opposite carriageway will look across and create more accidents. But usually the pilots and the crew will say, you'll find the location, you'll just draw a circle around it and look for the nearest biggest patch. So roughly that machine that you drove earlier on, roughly about the sort of wingspan of that thing. Roughly about the
So we were on the sprayer before, so like a 36 metre sort of circle.
Yeah. So
I know. I went to Alder Hay, and we parked one of the tractors on the helipad for a picture ready for the track to run. And the helipad was massive.
Yeah.
I was like, I couldn't believe the size of it. But you see, a helicopter looks small, but you forget how long the rotor span is, I suppose. Who decides which jobs you're going to attend?
So that's us. So we have up in Broughton Emergency Operations Centre, we have a HEMS paramedic and a HEMS dispatcher.
What does HEMS mean?
So HEMS is Helicopter Emergency Medical Service.
Yeah.
So we have a clinician and a trained ambulance dispatcher, and we're sort of trolling through all the jobs that come into the ambulance service at any one time, and we're sort of picking what seems to be appropriate for us, trying to identify what we can bring enhanced pre-hospital care to. So whether that's the doctor with doctor skills, or whether that's paramedics with the paramedic skills, and seeing what we can add our expertise and experience to.
So every single job that comes in that people need an ambulance for, you get to see, and then you scan through and see that you can provide a better job at, really.
Yes.
Oh, right. So it's not like the ambulance service go, oh, that's a bit far, can you come? It's like
it's
like live.
Yeah, and it could be 5 minutes from the nearest major trauma centre, but the difference that the crew will add to that patient, you bring the hospital forward.
So you've really got more kit in the helicopter than they've got in the van.
We have quite a lot of the same kit.
Yeah.
It's different little intricacies that we'll bring. So essentially what the docs have is the equipment that they would have available to them in an accident and emergency department. So for surgical skills, procedures to do maybe amputations or opening people's chests in case they have any heart or lung issues, we can bring that to them. We have ventilators that can manage people's breathing once they receive an anaesthetic, so we can provide some quite critical anaesthetic care to people at the side of the road,
Yeah.
which might take a long time to get at hospital or be delayed at the hospital. So they're the differences in kit, and we have some different drugs to what
Right.
road ambulances have as well.
Yeah, so you're like a major incident kind of kit, whereas they'll be like a bit less of an accident kind of kit.
Some of it is about kit, and it can be like a 20p scalpel is something we would carry, but the road ambulance crews may not carry that.
Right.
And that scalpel will be used for some sort of surgical intervention.
Yeah.
So it doesn't have to be like, you know, the £25,000 ventilator or the £10,000 monitor or whatever it might be. But actually, a lot of the time, it's just about bringing additional skills and additional experience to a scene.
I can't remember how to describe this though, but there'll be a lot of times when you'll go and you won't actually take the patient away. Then you've just gone because you're bringing the skills and more manpower and quickly.
Yeah. And sometimes, you know, the world's not perfect, and it's not, and so therefore by default things don't pan out the way we expect them to. But largely, the problem with dispatching to jobs on some information, not the whole picture, which is very difficult to get, is that 999 system is people under stress giving information that they don't normally ring 999. It's a new, they're under stress. It's probably the worst day of their lives. They'll give information that is well-meaning but misinterpreted or missaid or misheard even. And when you get there, actually the incident isn't as bad as what you first thought. You know, our lot of blood will be different to your lot of blood. So
you carry blood on it, will you then?
The doctor aircraft carries blood, and the paramedic aircraft in the future, watch this space, will be carrying blood in the future. Yes, the paramedic aircraft will be autonomously giving blood by the roadside.
Have you ever took both machines to one thing?
Yeah.
Is that quite?
Yeah, and it's not. It happened twice last week.
Yeah.
Right. And it's because exactly what I've just said. The skill set that was needed for the job was deemed to be the paramedic cohort. So the paramedic aircraft got there, found actually this is not as given. This is actually a much higher level. So they prepped and brought the dock aircraft in, and in the flight time they're prepping. So literally the doctor will turn up and, literally just crack on, and you've sped up that time from not being treated to being definitively treated by a doctor.
Yeah. And you're not funded by the NHS, but did you say you kind of used to be? So you're across.
Yeah, we're still both North West Ambulance Service staff members.
Yeah. And
the way it works is we're on sort of permanent loan to the air ambulance.
Yeah.
We're still employed by the ambulance service. However, the way it works is that the charity very cleverly, they then pay the ambulance service for our wage, basically.
Yeah.
So we're indirectly paid by the charity, but we're still we're still NHS employees paid for by the charity, which is wholly funded by your viewers, your kind donations, and we just rely on the people of the Northwest to help fund us.
That kind of works in a way because it means you can spend the money where you want, and it doesn't kind of get wasted in the whole government machine.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think so. I think we hear it all the time. I can't believe it's a charity. In some ways, yeah, I agree, but in other ways, you've got the autonomy to spend it wisely, and there's a huge amount of responsibility on us as clinicians. Is if we're going to propose something, we want to buy something. It might be a £300,000 ECMO machine, or it might be a 20p scalpel. Well, somebody somewhere, like your viewers, you yourself, have spent time that you spent time raising money for us. That you sacrifice that time with your family, with your loved ones, with whoever it might be, raising money for us.
Yeah.
And there's a huge responsibility on us to spend that money wisely, so that we wring every penny out of every pound, and we don't just go out and buy shiny stuff. We buy the stuff that will actually make an impact to our patients.
It'd be nice though if, like what you raised, you could then match fund, but you still have the same.
Yeah.
Like free reign to spend.
Yeah, absolutely.
Too,
yeah, absolutely.
I've gone through all these yet. Then I think when does the weather decide if the air ambulance can operate it?
We have rules. Same as on the road, the rules of the air, but we're giving exemptions. So Steve mentioned the word HEMS, Helicopter Emergency Medical Services. If something is classed as life or limb threatening, it becomes a HEMS mission,
Right.
as opposed to an air ambulance mission. So a HEMS mission is basically like driving on blue lights in the air. You get a different call sign. The guys that have gone out today, Helimed 72, Helimed 75 and Helimed 08, when they've gone to jobs, they've been called Helimed 72 Alpha, and Alpha is the blue light call sign. So basically we can fly pretty much anywhere in the northwest, and everybody gets out the way. The weather is a different matter.
So in the air, is it normally the biggest aircraft has to move out of the way for the smallest one? But if you're the air ambulance, do the Boeings have to move out of your way?
Yes. So we'll,
That's cool.
if we,
Get your A380 out of the way.
well, we don't do it easily because people are going and holding. If I was on that, then I'd be pretty angry. But we do cut across Manchester Centre line occasionally to get to the far side of like Glossop, that sort of area, and we'll minimise it and get close and then dart across and clear the centre line. But occasionally you do see them going back round and you all sit there feeling a bit bad. Yeah. But you know, somebody's having a bad day.
Well, yeah, no, that's it, totally.
But weather-wise, we have a rule. The rule is we have to be 500 feet above the ground, but in the northwest the ground rises. So if the cloud cover comes down. So when I first started, I was predominantly based at Blackpool, and the pilot I was with was a bit of a legend. And he'd go outside and he'd go, "Can't fly at the moment, cloud's too low." And I thought, "Oh God, how does he know 500 feet? He's really good." And then eventually, after about a year, he said, "No, if you can't see the top of Blackpool Tower, which is 519 feet high, you can't fly." And I'm like, I thought you were like some sort of magician. So anything cloud cover lower than Blackpool Tower, and we can't fly.
It's mad to think that someone built that tower years ago and wouldn't think that that's
No,
what
it's a perfect
There's our barometer.
I watched something this morning and it was on about the train tracks, the width of the train tracks. It was all derived from the horse and carts from the Roman Empire. But then that meant that when they made the rockets for the space shuttle, they couldn't make them any bigger because they had to fit down the train tracks and through the tunnels and everything built around. It's a bit like the guy building the Blackpool Tower, thinking one day, you know,
someone's going to use this. There's been an air ambulance over there.
Yeah, be a marker for that. So yeah, there's probably like loads of questions come up on the thing. I don't know how easy it is to go back and see them because there's 359 people watching. Do you do gift aid?
We do gift aid. I've got my colleagues from the charity. Yes, we do gift aid so that the percentage comes to the charity rather than going to the government.
Yeah, where's it gone? What's the difference between an alpha flight and an echo flight?
So an alpha flight is blue lights of the air. Your call sign becomes alpha. So going to a job will be called alpha, Helimed 72, Helimed 75 alpha. Coming back from a job once we've taken the patient to hospital or done whatever we've needed to do or been stood down, we then revert to Helimed 72 echo, which means we then play by all the normal rules, a bit like just turning your blue lights off if you're responding on an ambulance.
There was another one then that looked a good question. Who's responsible for the fuel checks in the helicopter?
The pilot. The pilot does a daily check of water ingress into the fuel, and we do a regular check.
You fill it up every time you come back, though, don't you? Because when I was there, it went out and then it come back a few minutes later. And I think it only used something like 30 litres. And I was like, that's amazing. What's the most expensive piece of equipment? Probably the helicopter.
Probably, yeah.
What's expensive?
I would say the staff, because they're priceless.
Jeez.
What make a helicopter? Is it someone's asked?
Go on, Steve. I've done them all. Sorry.
What's that? What make is the helicopter?
Yeah.
It's a EC135. So it's Airbus, I believe.
It is now, but it used to be Eurocopter.
Oh right.
These aircraft are about 2006, 2007. But they're like Trigger's broom. They get serviced.
They are meticulously maintained.
Someone here must have come in late. What calls would you self-deploy to? Is there any? So you were saying that it was ones that you think you can bring something to. And did you say that you'll scan for keywords like rural or field or?
A lot of that.
Primarily what I do when I'm in there is I'll have a quick look at the address first. So farm is a big key indicator. So I'll have a look at that farm or outside or on the side of or something like that to indicate that it's rural. And once I've had a little look at that, I'll find out what the job is then, and like cardiac arrests and traumas and.
What's the most ridiculous thing you've gone out to because someone's exaggerated a bit?
sprained ankles or something, perhaps. Or
Chances are we tend to get stood down before we get to them because
Yeah.
as the situation evolves, you get information back from the scene and it suddenly goes, hold on, this is not an explosion, it's a car backfiring or whatever it might be.
Yeah.
And it's, in fact, generally that type of thing.
No way. How can you tell the difference between a real call and a hoax?
It's very difficult.
Yeah, some of them are very creative.
Yeah.
And we do go to hoaxes. We have been to hoaxes. And they're creative. They're really creative. Usually things from a telephone box. Nobody uses a telephone box anymore.
yeah,
That's
I suppose they'll start to fall down, won't they?
Yeah,
Do you know the incident before setting off? Yeah, we've kind of
roughly. Yeah.
Can you eat in the helicopter?
It depends. Depends what how many times you've been out that day. Some days
We've got them some biscuits. So all the biscuits that have been sent, take some biscuits back with us.
But it depends if you got how much you've been out that day. Everybody carries. If you look in the car later on, we'll show you the emergency snack box.
Yeah.
Because you could go out and you could be out for like 10, 11 hours and not come back.
Right, what else have we got? There's quite a few there. Are the pilots medically trained?
They're not, but over a period of time, they just see what goes on and then they'll get the aircraft ready, so they'll pull some equipment out for us and you'll say, can you get me the Ujimi flip? And he will know exactly what the Ujimi flip is.
Yeah, so they're kind of like the porter.
Yeah.
Did you attend the Grand National?
No.
Someone here saying, brilliant video, fantastic job for the helicopter. And are the pilots medically trained? I presume it was medically trained. What's the lifespan of the helicopter?
Yeah, well, the ones we're flying at the moment, 2006, 2007, roughly the date of manufacture on them. But they're so well maintained. In fact, we're just about to send them off to be upgraded, so they'll have more lift power and a refurb of the inside.
Is that because people are getting heavier?
It just gives us more length, as in the sense of we can do longer legs, more fuel, carry more fuel and do longer legs, basically.
Can you see multi-rotor manned drones superseding the helicopter? They'd be expensive, wouldn't they?
They're quite a long way off, aren't we?
We've had some in the past. We've had some Spanish pilots who used to work on the HEMS system in Spain, and they've said that the UK airspace is pretty busy and pretty difficult to operate in. So I can't see drones really.
I think what we could see happening is delivering equipment.
Yeah.
So there's been trials already with little like sort of camera type drones delivering AEDs, so defibrillators to
blood medicines, even medicines to rural locations.
Yeah, they did it up in Cumbria for a while, didn't they?
Yeah.
Ferrying blood samples between hospitals. So there's a little trial up there.
Just to
So I'll say that with the next thing that's coming along.
Someone said, do you do sea rescue?
No, I don't like the water. Not a very good swimmer.
Someone here, I've been a proud member of the Norwegian Air Ambulance for more than 30 years. It's a very good help for us living in rural and a lot of miles from a hospital.
Yeah.
Would you fly to lorry accidents at night?
We wouldn't fly to them, but as we've said, the night car that operates on a Friday and Saturday night at the moment will, over the plan is to extend that over the coming year, so that we do more and more nights.
Someone's put, who is your favourite doctor to work with? Is that someone you work with?
It is. I recognise that name. My favourite doctor is E. McQuinn. I don't have a favourite because they're all lovely. It's not their fault they weren't clever enough to become paramedics and they had to settle for becoming a doctor instead.
Another one there. Have you ever had a fault on the helicopter when you've been in the air?
Me personally, no, but it does happen.
Yeah.
And yeah, between the pilot and the person paramedics out in the front, tend to sort of troubleshoot using emergency cards as to what's going on and how quickly we need to land.
Have you ever like damaged it, like scratched it or something, or landed on something and it's like made it muddy or something? Or
Again, that happens.
Cows knocking the windows through.
We do the downdraft. I mean, one of the things part of the overhead looking for landing sites is what we're going to affect on the way in.
Yeah.
So the downdraft is about 3.5 tons. So it'll blow a fence over. It'll take trampoline will go. So you've got to be mindful of the damage you're going to cause on the way in.
Yeah. Someone. Do you have any women pilots?
We don't in the Northwest, but we have plenty of female doctors, we have plenty of female paramedics, pilots. We're working on it.
Someone here, what's call out do you feel most proud of?
Ooh, probably the one where I've not had to do anything, because it means the person's been alright. Because my busy day is someone else's really bad day, and their family and the knock-on effect to their friends is massive. So when we're not busy, I'm okay with that, because it means people aren't having bad days.
I believe the East Air Ambulance, night vision searchlights, fly night. Do you as part of the reason you can't fly as much at night?
We don't operate. Yeah, I get the question. So the East Anglia Air Ambulance operate at night, and they land at night. We're using night vision and lots of things. There's lots of restrictions and lots of costs with that. And the difference between this area and East Anglia is the road network. We've got the M6, we've got the M62, we've got the M55, M65, M57.
58.
All of those roads we can get on a night at a certain, past a certain time, 7, 8 o'clock. The roads go very, very quiet. Massive infrastructure in the road network, and we can get places pretty quick. So Liverpool city centre to Manchester city centre in less than half an hour.
How much does each job cost?
Yeah, each mission, each full mission, about, was it £3,500?
Yeah, about that.
Yeah.
For everything.
There's like nearly 400 people watching, so there's like loads of questions still coming in.
Sorry.
Someone was saying about foot call outs to farms. What did you say, 33 last year?
33 a year, but that's just farms, purely farms. So there's equestrian, there's rural stuff, and there's just people living in rural communities as well that are remote from those major trauma centres.
Someone said, there's two good questions here, I'll read them both out. What kit have you got in the car compared to the... would you like to have what would you like every private car to carry, i.e. a first aid kit? And do you have auto power line detection, or is it just good eyesight?
We do have auto power line detection. We have a mapping system. When I started, it was literally ordnance survey maps, and use your thumb to measure, and that's about 5 miles from an ordnance survey map. So you used to work out what your distance was. Now you have an iPad with a load of, and on there is power lines, and also there's certain areas where we wouldn't fly over in the Northwest, or potentially prisons, certain categories of prisons, nuclear sites, and that sort of stuff we wouldn't fly over, and they will auto
Ping up and say, go
basically
around.
notify you. And sorry, I didn't catch the other question.
It was, what would you put in private cars, first aid kit wise? And then someone else said, did you have much trouble with drones?
I'll answer the drone question.
Yeah.
Don't have a lot of problem with drones. Professional drones generally get reported on our NOTAM system, so that's like notification to airmen, and if they're flying above a certain height, so they'll pop on the system that we're going to be in this area operating between these times. And then personally, I haven't had a lot of problem with private.
Do you know when
drones.
there's an accident, someone's nosing what's going on then?
That does happen.
It does happen.
Yeah.
It does happen.
And what they're doing is they're stopping us moving to the next job, or even lifting occasionally.
Because it's there, you can't.
And if it's
just shoot them down.
the drone, the thing is, the vast majority of drone operators are respectful, and it's like everything. It's the extreme ones that will always get the headlines. But the problem is that if the drone's up, the drone won't cause too much damage to the aircraft. It's the battery pack if it comes through the windscreen at 140 miles an hour.
Yeah, or it's where it throws the drone to, and it's the rotor in it.
Exactly. And if it goes through the tail rotor and disrupts the tail rotor, then we're in trouble.
Have you ever had any laser pens?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. Not
Have you
very
heard-
often.
I've just heard the Cornwall Air Ambulance fly over. Do you work closely with other air ambulances?
Absolutely, we all cross-border joint work. It's about the patient. It's not about the location.
Someone said something about, have you ever used the jetpacks?
No, that's a different air ambulance in Cumbria that's used the jetpacks. We've not really used them.
Someone says you do stuff in the rest of the UK. Well, there's different air ambulances. This is the Northwest one on the internet.
It's 21 in total in the UK. 21 air ambulances that operate in the UK.
Someone asking how long it takes to take off. About 4 minutes. We did that before.
Yeah.
Most horrific farm accident you attend. I don't think we need to answer that one, do we? What's the most famous casualty you've had in your helicopter?
Not being allowed to tell you that. Confidentiality. The most famous person I've had in my helicopter, let me think. I would say, for me, it would be my granddaughter, but she wasn't a casualty. She visited the base for the day and I sat her in it.
Do you want to tell the Beyonce story?
I can't tell them the Beyonce. I will tell you the Beyonce. Do you want me to tell you the Beyonce story?
Can do, yeah.
Since you've mentioned it. So
Have you seen who's hiding? Come on, don't say hello.
So where?
We've got two of them.
So where?
Two of the members of the staff hiding behind the camera.
I just want to clarify that Beyonce's never been a casualty for Beyonce's lawyers and all the rest of it. So Beyonce's never been a casualty. But where we work at Barton, it's used quite a lot by VIPs. The heliport is used. They fly in and then they'll go off and probably doing a concert or whatever it might be, or a lot of footballers or whatever it might be. So this aircraft came in. There was two of them, and it was Beyonce and who's her husband?
Jay-Z.
Thank you. I don't know these people. I was going to say Kanye, but so Jay-Z flies in one helicopter and she flies in the other helicopter. And our engineer, who will remain nameless because I think the video was for him and not for his daughter. So the engineer said, I need to try and get a video of her. And I said, well, I'll tell you what we're going to do, because they're going to be on us. Like, the security will be all over us. So they both got out because they're not allowed to fly together for insurance reasons and all the rest of it. So there are two doors. You've been to Barton, big hangar doors. Yeah. So we cracked the hangar doors about 3 or 4 inches and kept the engineer got his camera out, and I went out overtly and stood next to the helicopter and started pretending to video. I wasn't. I was actually on eBay. But I was pretending to video, and this big security guy comes on and goes, hey, no filming. And I said, yeah, oh, sorry about that. I just wanted to get a bit of a video. Sorry about that. I'm a big fan and all that. Played it all. Meanwhile, Kev's, I've said his name. Kev's videoing away and he got a full shot of Beyonce getting out the helicopter. The distraction technique. Look what this hand's doing, because you won't know what this one's doing.
What's this here? I should start a national ambulance fundraising day. Well, actually, so Joe Seals, he does YouTube, and I said to him he needs to do something similar. Anyway, he's raising for the Yorkshire ambulance. I think he's up to about 3 and 4 grand already, so that's pretty good.
And it's only by people like yourself and the people watching who donating that we continue flying, and the rest of the air ambulances around the country as well.
Someone says hello from Blackpool. Do you have tachographs like you do for lorries?
The pilots have flight limitation time, so if they finish late, they have to come in late the next day. There's only a certain number of hours they can fly in a day as well.
Someone says he stopped watching because I'm only interested in the Northwest. Weird. Where are we now? We hadn't got to the very beginning. Are you going to gain the ability to fly in a 10 calls up? No, we've done that one. Oh, there's so many questions. Hero's sitting right there. I think he means you guys, yeah. How much does it? Oh, you've done that one.
We do carry a Lucas. Someone's just asked there if we carry a Lucas. We do carry a Lucas chest compression device, yeah.
We've had you didn't attend the Grand National, did you?
No.
What's the lifespan of the helicopter?
Still going strong.
Where are we now? Someone about the weather again. Oh, there's so many questions.
If there's any,
someone said something about, are they closing one in Welsh pools, so will you then start to cover Wales?
I think that decision has been deferred. If I'm right, that's Wales Air Ambulance, I'm afraid. So we don't really know a lot about that. But I think I'd read somewhere that decision's been deferred. But we'd continue to cross border, helping each other anyway. Yeah, like I said, it's about the patient. It's about the poor soul on the floor that day.
Do you have individual med kits, it says, and who keeps them restocked?
Every aircraft, we have response bags, which we can show you on the car. We've brought some with us. Response bags on every aircraft, so they're not individual, but each aircraft is kitted exactly the same, so the same stuff is in the same place.
Someone else, again, about the Lucas thing, but you've done that. How long can you fly for?
So we used to, so for an example, I'll give you a real life example. We took a patient once, quite a while ago now actually, who was a little girl who was going down for a liver transplant in London. and we flew her from Blackpool. We stopped off at RAF Benson to refuel, and then flew into London and landed in Regent's Park, and then ambulanced. London ambulance service picked us up in the park, and we took the little girl into the hospital.
Right, I think we've got all the questions that came in now. We'll go back to the bottom, but there's 441 people watching live. So has anyone got any other questions? Because we'll probably have to round it up in a minute, because otherwise these guys have got stuff to do. How long does it take to train, become team member? That's one that's quite new.
So I can answer that one. So we do a thing called a 9 months. So every paramedic that joins us, that we recruit, they go in the back for 3 months, in the back of the aircraft for 3 months, just as a paramedic, learning to be a paramedic in an aircraft. They then do the HEMS technical crew member course, which we talked about, navigation, aviation, law, that sort of thing. They spend 3 months in the front, learning how to do all that, and then they do 3 months run up, learning to work with one of the doctors. So 9 months from start to being fully fledged.
How many patients can you take from the scene of an accident?
One patient, and if it's a child, we'd tend to take a guardian or a parent. But if it's an adult, we wouldn't carry an extra adult with us, because that adult doesn't need somebody else with them. And that's an aviation rule, because if the aircraft goes down, that person doesn't need to be on that aircraft.
Ian said no question, just want to say thanks.
Thank you.
Do you use police choppers? No, you don't, do you?
No.
Someone in Australia watching. How much does it cost to get the helicopter serviced? And have you got any ex-RAF pilots?
When I first started, it was a real predominantly ex-military, because flying's quite expensive, and the number of hours you need to clock up to be a HEMS pilot tends to come from military service. Actually, what we're seeing now is 50-50 now. So a lot of civilian offshore rig pilots, and a lot of civilian people who've paid the money to put themselves through all the necessary courses. I would say about 50-50 civilian background, military background now.
So many nice comments as well. Someone said, did you fly here or drive? They drove.
Yeah, we drove.
How much fuel does it use an hour? A lot.
I'm trying to think.
An hour is about 200 litres.
200 litres.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I bet it'd be used more if you're flat out. Greeting from Northumberland. How many horse got the engine? I don't think it just means how many horsepower is the engine, that maybe.
Well, basically, each engine has to generate effectively 3.5 tons of downdraft to lift. Torque-wise, I could do with our engineering.
Yeah, it's not so much horsepower, is it? It's torque. It's measured in torque and aviation jet engines.
What's the longest you've been on a scene?
That's a good question.
We
try to spend the least amount of time possible at scenes.
Yeah.
Will you ever go from scene to scene, or do you always have to go back and?
No. Each aircraft and each car are kitted, and each individual is kitted to do at least 2 or 3 jobs on vans.
Right.
So we do a thing called what's called job cycle time, whereby the amount of time on the job should be about an hour in total, not on scene, but from activation, mobilise, lift, deal with the patient, take them to hospital. We aim for about an hour, because then you can cycle to the next one and the next one and the next one.
Yeah. There's quite a few questions coming in that we were answered earlier. So like, how did you become a pilot? How did you come to work there? Why is it not state funded? So if they want to watch it from the beginning, that would probably be better. But we've been on for like nearly 45 minutes now. The car's outside, so we're going to go and film around the car. So I don't know whether we'll get the Wi-Fi. I'll go funny on us. So you'll probably see that later in my video today. To be honest, that's probably the best, than it crashing when we go outside. So we'll wound it up now. So thanks to these guys for coming out, and also thanks to the ones hiding. So that without them it doesn't happen, because they have to raise the money to make it fly. Someone said you're going to have a go one of the tractors. You could do, couldn't you?
I was hoping you'd ask.
Do you have to warm up the engine first? That's another one that's come out. So
do we have to
warm up the engine?
Well, part of that 4-minute lift time is those engines come up to speed, and temperature as well.
Well, I was there. I remember they come out, and I was like, thinking it was just going to
they come up to speed, and it's part of those normal checks.
Do you ever go to one of another ambulance? Yeah, I think a lot of the time. Could you send, what's the address? Could we send biscuits for the crew? Well, they are going to go home with some, but we can sort that out. I'm sure I can put a link in the video maybe.
We do have a North West Air Ambulance charity website.
Yes,
that
we do.
people-
What you need is you need a biscuit page on
Yeah.
We'll have to speak to IT.
Yeah.
I know, we're going to have to
no, you set up a wish list on Amazon and then it'll come and you don't have to give your address out then to the world.
Wow.
So
There you go.
Head office address is-
we might sort that out. We'll sort that out, but we can send them some of these
Yeah,
anyway.
thank you.
But no, what's the fuel economy like? Oh, what did you reckon?
About an hour's flying is about 200 litres.
But when you think you could do 140 miles in that, that's pretty decent.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly.
Right, we'll round it up. Thanks for watching, everyone. There's 430 people. They're amazing. And we'll see more later on the video. So, bye.
Thank you.